You have everything you need right now to do what you're called to do right now. The thing that can hold you back is people's opinions. We have to get over that fear. That fear of man is a snare. And if you're constantly worried about what people are going to think about the product you create, about the music you're going to create, about your first attempt at writing, about that thing you're putting out there, if you're worried too much about that, first of all, you're never going to get it out there. And second of all, if you're living for people's praise, lack of their praise is what will kill you. The fear of man is a snare. That is in the exact same chapter, just a few verses earlier in 29:18, the famous verse that all of us visionaries like, which says, where there is no vision, the people dwell without restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. When you've got that vision, King Solomon is implying, there is going to be a fear of man that comes in. Welcome back to the Conquer Your Mountains podcast. I am Joël, and it's so great to have you here. This week, it's just me talking. This is a show where we help people conquer whatever obstacle is in front of them. I've been guiding people around the world for years. I've been able to help people conquer physical mountains, and then as a coach and counselor, I've helped people conquer a lot of emotional, mental block type mountains. This week, I want to talk about something that's a big one with a lot of people I've coached over the years, and it is the fear of what people will think. You know, there's something within all of us, this kind of, I think maybe comes from our tribal thing where we're always a little bit worried about what people around us are going to think, maybe specifically your family. I've talked to people who they start to really see some success, and maybe their family is the one that starts to bring them down. Say, hey, don't forget where you came from. Don't get too big of a head, or who do you think you are? You know, essentially saying people like us don't do that kind of thing. Really what it is a lot of times is their own intimidation of you, about you rising higher. Another one is people saying, well, you know, I want to start and do this thing, but nobody else has done this. Am I a fool for doing it? And there's some wisdom in asking that, but recognize the fact that if it's a vision God has given you, there's a very good chance nobody has done it before or never quite done it the way that he's asking you to do it. So you seek counsel, but you also recognize that ultimately it's him who's going to give you the guidance. What's interesting is Proverbs 29:25 says, the fear of man is a snare, but whoever puts their trust in the Lord will be safe. That is in the exact same chapter, just a few verses earlier in 29:18, the famous verse that all of us visionaries like, which says, where there is no vision, the people dwell without restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. So there's this connection between when God gives you a vision, an idea to do something, a desire to pursue something better for your family, a desire to be different than what you've known, a desire to break a cycle in your family or to start something new, whatever it is. There's this thing in there that basically says when you've got that vision, King Solomon is implying, there is going to be a fear of man that comes in. It's a fear of what people will think, what they'll do. I'll never forget when I first started leading outdoor adventures, I started having people sign up pretty quickly to do these trips. And what I found is I got a lot of emails from people that would say, hey, who are you certified through to do this? And then they'd send this laundry list of things they're certified to do. And I used to get super intimidated because I'd be like, man, is there something I don't know? Like, you know, these people are writing me and they're kind of questioning my legitimacy to do this. Well, what I actually found out later on is most of those people were subtly asking me for a job. They were saying, hey, you're doing this and I would love to be part of it. But they felt like they needed permission or authorization. And listen, there is some value in getting certified and getting authorized and getting recognized. But here's one of the things I've found. There are people who are truly gifted to do things, and then there are people who are trained to do things. I'll give you an example. For years, I couldn't get a good haircut. I would go to these super expensive places, and the haircut would just come out bad. I'd feel horrible for spending that much money. But then I went to this super cheap place one time right here in my town, and this lady cut my hair, and it was so good. And I was amazed. I kept going back, and she would consistently give me a good haircut. Well, one day I was like, well, maybe it's just the training at this place. So I went to a different person because she wasn't there that day. My haircut was horrible again. Apparently I have very finicky hair, what's left of it. But what I came to realize is there are some people who are truly gifted at what they do, and the training only sharpens what they do. And then there are other people who are trained to do what they do. You see, I saw this in counseling school. I remember right before I graduated, I went into the final class of another class that was about to graduate. I had to go sit in on that one because I was missing my class. And she said, you can sit in on the graduating class. And they had to submit their final project, which was a recording of them doing counseling. And I'll never forget, literally one of the recordings, this girl did everything they taught us not to do in the counseling training we had spent 2 years getting for this master's degree. It was so bad. But everyone was like, oh, that's great. That's great. And I'm thinking, that was horrible. So I went to the professor afterwards and I said, hey, are you going to let her graduate? And she goes, well, she's too far along to hold her back now. So yes, we're going to let her graduate. And I was like, but she's doing everything wrong. And she goes, yeah, well, hopefully she'll learn it right eventually. And what struck me is, first of all, this lady is about to be released upon the earth as a certified counselor, and she was absolutely horrible at it. So somewhere out there is the world's worst counselor, but they're certified. Scary thing. Somewhere out there is the person who graduated last in medical school, but they're called a doctor. My point is this, not to scare you, but my point is this. There are people who are trained to do things, and there are people who have a calling to do something. And if you have a calling, the training will just supplement that. So if you feel that call, go for that, but don't feel like you have to have any additional training in order for that calling to be validated. That's really important because a lot of us are looking for someone to certify us. And really, there's some value in it. There is some value in getting training. There is some value in being part of a network of people that can kind of keep you sharp, keep pushing you to greater things, give you more information and more knowledge. But really, if God is calling you to do something, you need to do it. And you don't need a certification to do it. The certification is God calling you to do it, and you step out humbly with a lot of fear and trembling. I've done that many times in my life. I've stepped into things that were way beyond my skill set, way beyond my ability to do them, but I knew I had to do them, and I learned along the way. And really, anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. You're going to start out and it's going to be bad. I look at some of my earlier podcasts. Somebody was just talking about listening to the earlier podcasts and how bad they were. I'm sure I'm going to listen to this one someday and go, wow, that was really bad, right? The goal is to be constantly improving. But if you're constantly worried about people and their opinions, an example, when you're getting started, you're worried about not looking professional enough. And I've talked to so many business people who were starting a small business and they felt like they had to have a certain storefront, a certain kind of office, a certain image for people to respect them. And I thought, listen, would you rather look successful or truly be successful? And a lot of times what these people do is they look successful, but if you look behind the curtain, it's all held up by duct tape and smoke and mirrors, and they're not truly successful. Whereas those who are truly successful, they do what they're called to do with what they have right now. And never doubt this. You have everything you need right now to do what you're called to do right now. The thing that can hold you back is people's opinions, thinking you need something else. But really, you've got what you need to do if God has given you the call. And there's going to be criticism. And listen, you can learn from anyone, right? And oftentimes our critics are our greatest ally in helping us see things we don't see about ourselves. So you listen to the critics, but you also recognize that you don't want to take advice from somebody who you don't admire what the results are of their life. This is what I see a lot in the world. People comment on my social media sometimes. And the funny thing is I know some of those people and I look at them and I go, honestly, I don't respect your discernment. I don't trust your discernment. I don't think you're right on this. And they have an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. But what is the results of their opinions in their life? And that sounds super self-righteous, but it's not, because we are supposed to judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. So if you're looking at someone's life and you're not seeing the results you want in your life, in their life, then I wouldn't listen. A lot of people come out and see the way we live right now. My wife and I, we live in a tiny home. It's a very small home. It's paid for though, but we've chosen to live that way because we're building a business. We're building out this retreat center, Airbnb business. And we also really value travel. And the way we could do it with the income we had was to live small. So we're living in a small, tiny house. And I think a lot of people come out and look at that and it doesn't compute to them. But I don't really care what people think about the way I live, because I look at most people's lives and I go, you look successful. You look like you've got it all together, but I also realize you're drowning in debt. I have no debt. I'm not saying that to brag. I've slowly and by the grace of God set up our life in such a way that I don't have to manage that debt, a debt load, because I don't want that. It's not part of my values. My values are being able to travel, have financial freedom, and to build this business and not have the financial strain of it. And last year after the flood hit our town, thank God we didn't have the financial strain, because the business just dropped off a cliff for everybody around here. A lot of people that were over leveraged around here, they looked successful. Overnight, that success came crashing to the ground. And that's a lot of it too, is we want to look successful, but really the key is, do you want to look successful or do you want to actually be successful? Because truly being successful may not be that glamorous. It may not look like you're, a high roller doing all these things. The people that I truly know that are the most successful, they lay low. I'll never forget when I worked for Southwest Airlines, I had a lady come in and check in, and I recognized the last name because her name is literally over buildings all over this town. And I know they're billionaires. But she was dressed in very modest clothing, flying Southwest Airlines. And I thought, wow, that is a very successful woman, but she doesn't feel the need to look successful. And again, a lot of it is we're worried about what people think of us. What are people going to think if I have $1 billion and I drive an old Toyota Corolla, whatever it is? We have to get over that fear. That fear of man is a snare. And if you're constantly worried about what people are going to think about the product you create, about the music you're going to create, about your first attempt at writing, about that thing you're putting out there, if you're worried too much about that, first of all, you're never going to get it out there. And second of all, if you're living for people's praise, lack of their praise is what will kill you, right? If you live off the praise, you're going to die when you don't get the praise. We have to recognize that the work we're doing, this sounds so weird, but I've been realizing this more and more. The work we're doing has to be for ourselves and our relationship with God, to honor God and do the best we can with what we have, regardless of the results, the physical results. If nobody ever sees your stuff the way you want it to, I've struggled with that on some of my books. They haven't sold the way they wanted. But we have to get really comfortable with saying, I'm going to do this for the sake of obedience to God, and that has its own inherent value. Even if I don't look successful on the outside, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to worry about people's opinions. I'm not going to worry about the ultimate results. When you take that step, first of all, it's incredibly fulfilling because you know you're doing what God has called you to do. But also, when you break free of that fear of what people are going to think, it is so liberating, because I see so many people that they're always feeling like they have to say a certain thing or act a certain way because they want people's approval. And that is a horrible, horrible trap to live in. Listen, the fear of man is a snare. My encouragement to you is, if you're called to do anything of value in life, first of all, there are going to be people that criticize you. Listen to the critics, but take everything with a grain of salt, especially online, because you don't know the results of their opinions, of their discernment or lack of discernment, right? So online, I wouldn't listen to at all, almost. But if you hear it from people that are close to you in concerns, listen to those concerns, but also realize if God's put it in your heart to do it, you do it wisely, you seek as much counsel as you can, but you step out with fear, trembling, and humility, and trust that God is the one who's going to make things happen for you. And the crazy thing is, there are certain people that you're never going to please, right? You can't say the right thing to the wrong person. But I've also found you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. If somebody is for you and believes the best and wants the best for you, they are going to be for you, even if you don't quite do it right, even if you don't quite say it right. And if there are people that are determined to misunderstand you, which believe me, there are people who are just so, a person who's at war with themselves will never be at peace with others. There are so many people who are at war so much with themselves that them seeing you step out and succeed, it's actually intimidating to them. And that may be the challenge you get from feedback from your family or others who see you rising up, or friendships that you used to have, and people saying, do you think you're better than this? No, it's not that. It's that you've got a call, and when you've got that call, you cannot let fear of man hold you back. I hope this has been encouraging to you. I would love to talk to you. If you've got a mountain you're trying to conquer, you can sign up for coaching at joelmalm.com/coaching. If you pick that free 30-minute option and allow me to record our session, you get some free coaching. And usually I've found that if you're struggling with it, somebody else is struggling with it too. So you being willing to share your journey has this powerful thing. Remember that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. It's God's redemption in our life, and it's our willing to tell others about what we're working through and what God is doing in our life that really brings power to it. So I'd love to have you on the show. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'd love to hear from you, hear your comments below, or shoot me an email at go to joelmalm.com and shoot me a message, and I would love to hear from you.